The heavy glass of the window holds the night, while the faint, rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall marks the slow passage of time. My hands, resting on the cool stone of the workbench, still remember the weight of the uranium ore and the rough texture of the pitchblende that filled my pockets and dreams. There is a strange, soft hum in the air, a vibration that no ear can truly hear, but that the bones feel deep within the chest. It is the sound of the invisible, the whisper of atoms breaking apart and releasing their light. I close my eyes, and the darkness is not empty. It is filled with a blue glow, a spectral fire that dances in the void. It is a gentle radiance, a lullaby of energy that has sung to me for decades. Here, in this stillness, the chaos of the world falls away. There is only the memory of the work, the smell of dust and acid, and the profound, peaceful certainty that we are all made of this same quiet, burning star stuff. The scent of old paper and dried chemicals hangs heavy in the room, a perfume of decades past that clings to the wooden beams. Shadows stretch gently across the stone floor as the sun begins its slow descent, painting the walls in hues of amber and deep violet. A single notebook lies open on the desk, its pages filled with neat, precise handwriting that has faded slightly with time yet remains clear to the eye. Outside the window, the trees sway in a gentle breeze, their leaves rustling softly against the glass in a sound like distant whispers. The room feels suspended in time, a quiet sanctuary where great thoughts once took flight without hurry or fear. Every object in this space seems to hold a memory of the woman who once worked here with such fierce dedication. The stillness is profound and comforting, inviting the observer to rest and reflect on a life spent in pursuit of truth. There is no rush in this place, only the steady rhythm of discovery and contemplation that guided so many long days. The warmth of the fading light wraps around the room like a gentle embrace, softening the edges of the heavy furniture. It is a moment of perfect peace, far removed from the chaos of the outside world and the wars that once tore nations apart. The legacy of the scientist lives on in the quiet dignity of this preserved space, where time moves at its own gentle pace. The air carries a subtle scent of ozone and old paper, a fragrance that speaks of long days spent in quiet contemplation. Glass beakers sit in orderly rows on the shelves, their surfaces cool and smooth to the touch, holding faintly glowing substances that hum with a quiet energy. A single chair sits near the window, its cushion slightly indented from hours of sitting and thinking, worn smooth by the weight of a mind that never stopped working. The walls are lined with books and journals, their spines faded, but their contents still vibrant, with knowledge that changed the world forever. Outside, the city moves with a slow and steady rhythm, unaware of the quiet revolution taking place within these four walls. The light shifts gradually as the sun moves across the sky, casting long shadows that stretch and contract with the passing hours in a dance of light and dark. This was a place of stillness and focus, where the mind could wander freely through the vast landscape of scientific discovery without fear or doubt. The objects in the room seemed to hold a silent reverence for the work that was done there with such patience and care. Each item has a story to tell, a memory of a moment when a new truth was uncovered or a hypothesis was confirmed beyond all doubt. The atmosphere is one of profound peace, a sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world and the noise of daily life. It was in this quiet space that the boundaries of human understanding were pushed ever further into the unknown. The gentle hum of the equipment and the soft rustle of pages turning create a soothing backdrop for deep thought and endless exploration. Time seems to lose its meaning in this room, replaced by a timeless quality that allows for endless inquiry into the nature of matter. The room itself is a testament to the power of dedication and the beauty of intellectual pursuit that never fades with age. It is a place where the mind can rest and the spirit can find renewal in the simple act of observing the world. The quiet presence of the glowing substances serves as a reminder of the mysteries that still await discovery by those who come after. The room remains a symbol of the enduring human quest for knowledge and understanding that transcends all boundaries. One specific fact remains clear in my memory. The radium that glowed in the dark was never tainted. The containers during those early years, but kept in glass vials that allowed its light to shine freely in the dim laboratory. The soft light continues to shift across the floor as the afternoon wears on slowly, marking the passage of time in a gentle, unhurried way. This quiet sanctuary offers a final refuge for the woman who spent her life in the pursuit of truth and the beauty of the natural world. The stillness of the room reflects the stillness that has finally come to a weary body after a long journey of discovery. It is a moment of perfect tranquility before the world moves on without her, leaving only the memory of her brilliant mind and gentle spirit to linger in the air. The city of Warsaw breathed under the weight of empires, where the air itself seemed to carry the silence of suppressed voices. I was born on a cold November day in 1867, the youngest of 5 children, in a home that valued learning above all else. My father taught mathematics and physics, filling the rooms with the smell of old paper and the quiet hum of intellectual discussion. My mother ran a prestigious boarding school for girls, her presence a steady rhythm of hope until illness stole it away. We lived in poverty, our spirits rich while our cupboards were often bare. Yet the house remained a sanctuary for books and curiosity. The Russian occupation meant our language was forbidden in schools. Our culture pushed into the shadows like a hidden flame. I remember the secret schools, the flying university, where we gathered in basements and private rooms to study forbidden subjects. These clandestine meetings fostered a deep sense of resilience and determination within the young Maria. The loss of my mother left a profound void, a silence that could not be filled by music or conversation. It strengthened my resolve to pursue my own path through education and science, to find a light that no empire could extinguish. I worked as a governess for several years, saving every possible coin for my own future while supporting my older sister Bronia. This period of service taught me patience and discipline, the slow accumulation of small things that eventually become great. Her sister Bronia eventually succeeded in her studies and invited me to join her in France, making the dream of the Sorbonne a tangible reality. The room where I first studied in Warsaw was small and filled with the scent of old paper and ink. Sunlight filtered through heavy curtains to illuminate the wooden desk where I solved complex mathematical problems. A single oil lamp burned on the table during the long winter nights when the darkness pressed against the windows. The walls were lined with books that my father had carefully preserved, despite the family's financial struggles. Dust motes danced in the beams of light as I read by the warm glow of the flame. The silence of the room was broken only by the scratch of my pen on the page. Outside, the city of Warsaw slept under the watchful eyes of the Russian authorities. Inside, a young mind worked tirelessly to understand the laws that govern the universe. The atmosphere was one of quiet concentration and deep intellectual engagement. It was in this simple space that the foundations of my future discoveries were laid. The room held the memory of my childhood dreams, nor yet the hopes of a family that believed in education. Even in hardship, there was a sense of peace and purpose that surrounded my studies. The objects in the room seemed to whisper stories of resilience and the enduring power of knowledge. Time moved slowly in this sanctuary of learning, where the future of science was being quietly shaped. My early years were marked by a steady progression through formal schooling that emphasized discipline and rigorous academic preparation. The educational system in partition Poland required students to navigate complex political realities while maintaining their cultural identity. I attended a finishing school that focused on languages and the arts before I could pursue higher education. This institution taught me the fundamentals of drawing and composition alongside mathematics and natural sciences. I learned to observe the world with a keen eye for detail and a patient approach to observation. My artistic training was not formal in the sense of a dedicated art academy, but rather integrated into my general education. I practiced sketching landscapes and still lifes during my leisure hours to develop my visual acuity. The style I developed was characterized by precision and clarity rather than emotional expression or dramatic flair. My technique involved careful attention to light and shadow, mirroring the scientific method I would later apply to physics. I often drew objects from nature, focusing on their structural integrity and the way light interacted with their surfaces. These sketches provided a way to see the world clearly, to strip away the noise, and find the essential forms. the quiet determination I showed as a child in Warsaw became the foundation of my future achievements. My story began in a modest home in a city that yearned for freedom and self-determination. The seeds of my greatness were sown in the soil of a nation that valued knowledge despite oppression. I grew into a woman who would change the course of scientific history forever. My journey from Warsaw to Paris was a testament to the power of education and perseverance. The early years of my life were marked by both personal loss and intellectual awakening. I emerged from these experiences with a clarity of purpose that would define my entire career. The world would soon come to know me as Marie Curie, a name that would echo through time. I arrived in Paris in 1891 as a recent Polish immigrant with barely enough capital to survive. I felt intimidated by the French language upon my arrival in the bustling capital city of France. The sounds of a new culture surrounded me as I navigated the streets of my adopted home. I chose to walk 20 minutes from my small flat to the university to save money on transportation. This daily journey allowed me to observe the city and reflect on my purpose in this foreign land. My goal at the Sorbonne was to become a Master of Science and contribute to the field of physics. I enrolled in courses that challenged my mind and expanded my understanding of the natural world. The lecture halls were filled with students from many nations who shared a common passion for discovery. I studied with a focus that often led me to forget to eat or rest during long days. My citizenship remained that of the Russian Empire until I married Marie Curie in 1895. This legal status changed when I became a French citizen and began my life as a French physicist. The transition marked a new chapter in my life where I could fully dedicate myself to scientific research. My early life in Warsaw had prepared me for the rigors of academic study in a new country. The values instilled by my parents guided me through the challenges of immigration and higher education. I carried the memory of my family and their struggles as I walked the paths of the Sorbonne. The quiet determination I showed as a child in Warsaw became the foundation of my future achievements. I remembered that the specific density of water at its freezing point is exactly 1 gram per cubic centimeter, a constant that anchors the physical world. This simple fact was a reminder that even in a changing universe, some things remain steady and true. It was a comfort to know that nature followed laws that could be understood and respected. The memory of that small room in Warsaw still brings a sense of calm to my mind. The smell of the oil lamp and the scratch of the pen are as real to me now as they were then. I look back on those years with a deep sense of gratitude for the hardships that shaped me. The struggle for independence, the loss of my mother, the long walks to the university. All of it led to this moment of reflection. I see now that every challenge was a lesson, every loss a teacher, and every success a gift. The path was not easy, but it was always clear to me. I walked it with the knowledge that I was part of something larger than myself. The seeds, the train wheels, clicked against the iron rails. A steady rhythm that carried me away from the gray skies of Warsaw toward the hazy promise of Paris. I stepped onto the platform in 1891. The air, thick with the scent of coal smoke and damp stone. A smell that would define my first years in this foreign city. My name was still Maria Skłodowska, then a Polish immigrant with a heavy suitcase and a heart full of quiet determination. The French language wrapped around me like a heavy coat, unfamiliar and difficult to breathe in. It sounds sharp and rolling against my tongue. I walked the 20 minutes from my small attic room to the Sorbonne every single day, refusing to spend the few coins I had on a tram ticket. This daily journey became a meditation, a time to watch the city wake up and to feel the cold wind bite at my cheeks while I clung to my purpose. The streets were alive with the chatter of students from every nation, all drawn here by the same hunger for discovery that burned in my chest. Inside the lecture halls, the air was warm and still, filled with the scratch of pens and the low murmur of voices discussing the laws of nature. I sat in the back rows, often forgetting to eat or drink as the professors spoke of electricity and magnetism with a passion that made my own hands tremble. The library was a sanctuary of silence, where the dust motes danced in the shafts of light that filtered through high, arched windows. I studied until my eyes burned and my fingers cramped, driven by a need to understand the invisible forces that shaped the world The memory of my mother, lost to illness when I was still a child, lived in every page I turned, a silent companion in my struggle. I had spent years working as a governess in the countryside, saving every franc to support my sister Bronia. Well, she studied medicine in this very city. Those lonely years taught me the value of patience, the discipline of waiting for a harvest that might not come for a long time. The secret meetings in Warsaw had shaped my mind, teaching me to value independence and to speak of forbidden ideas with a quiet strength. Now, in Paris, that strength was tested by the cold and the "nor yet canst thou kill me" hunger that gnawed at my stomach during long winter nights. I often fainted from lack of food, my body weak, but my spirit unbroken by the hardship. The small room I rented was barely furnished, with a thin mattress and a stove that barely kept the frost at bay. I wrapped myself in every piece of clothing I owned, sitting by the window to watch the snow fall on the rooftops of the Latin Quarter. The city was a place of contrasts, where great intellects walked the same streets as the poor and the forgotten. I felt the weight of being a woman in a world that did not expect me to be here, to take up space in the halls of science. Yet, the barriers that stood in my way only made the path more clear, more necessary to walk with steady steps. The values my parents had instilled in me, the belief in education as a path to freedom, guided me through the confusion of immigration and the rigors of academic life. I carried the memory of my family, their struggles and their hopes, as I navigated the complex social landscape of France. The Third Republic was a time of renewal, a nation rebuilding itself after the turmoil of war, with a renewed desire for prestige and knowledge. Universities expanded to welcome students who sought careers in the natural sciences, creating a bustling environment of ideas and debate. The political tensions between monarchists and Republicans were often loud in the streets, but in the laboratories, death, the pursuit of truth transcended these divisions. Scientists shared their findings across borders, believing that the discovery of a new element belonged to the world, not to any single nation. The atmosphere was one of quiet determination, where long hours in the lab yielded slow but steady progress. I worked with limited equipment, relying on precision and a deep sense of patience to detect phenomena that were invisible to the naked eye. The city itself seemed to hum with the energy of this new age, a time when the fundamental concepts of matter and energy were beginning to shift. The heavy velvet curtains of the laboratory filtered the soft light of a Parisian afternoon into a warm, golden haze. Dust motes danced slowly in the shafts, co-death of illumination that touched the wooden workbench, creating a silent, floating galaxy in the quiet room. Glass beakers sat in orderly rows, their surfaces cool and smooth to the touch, reflecting the faint colors of the fading day. A low hum of silence filled the space, broken only by the distant, rhythmic chime of a clock, marking the passing hours. The air carried a subtle, lingering scent of old paper and dried chemicals, a fragrance of decades of concentrated thought and labor. Shadows stretched gently across the stone floor as the sun began its slow descent behind the window pane. A single notebook lay open on the desk, its pages filled with neat, precise handwriting that recorded the slow march of discovery. The ink had faded slightly with time, yet the words remained clear and legible to the eye, telling a story of persistence. Outside the window, the trees swayed in a gentle breeze, their leaves rustling softly against the glass in a soothing, natural rhythm. The room felt suspended in time, a quiet sanctuary where great thoughts had once taken flight and found their form. Every object in this space seemed to hold a memory of the woman who once worked here, her presence lingering in the stillness. The warmth of the fading light wrapped around the room like a gentle embrace, inviting a sense of deep peace and reflection. There was no rush in this place, only the steady, unhurried rhythm of discovery and contemplation that defined those early years. The legacy of the scientist lived on in the quiet dignity of this preserved space, a testament to the power of a single mind. It was a moment of perfect peace, far removed from the chaos of the outside world and the struggles of survival. The transition from Maria Skłodowska to Marie Curie was a slow evolution, marked by the meeting of two minds that would change the course of history. Pierre Curie entered my life with a gentle curiosity that matched my own, a man who saw the world through the lens of wonder and precision. Our marriage in 1895 was not just a union of hearts, but a partnership of intellects, a shared journey into the unknown. My citizenship remained that of the Russian Empire until that moment, a legal status that reflected the complex political reality of my birth. Becoming a French citizen allowed me to fully dedicate myself to scientific research without the shadow of foreign restrictions. The values instilled by my parents continued to guide me through the challenges of this new chapter, grounding me in the principles of service and inquiry. The early years in Paris were a time of profound transformation, where the seeds of greatness were sown in the soil of hardship and hope. I walked the paths of the Sorbonne with a clarity of purpose that had been forged in the fires of loss and displacement. The world would soon come to know me as a name that would echo through time. But in those days, I was simply a student with a dream. The quiet determination I showed as a child in Warsaw became the foundation of my future achievements, a strength that never wavered. My story began in a modest home, in a city that yearned for freedom, yet it grew in the bustling streets of Paris. The scientific community operated within a framework of intense competition, yet maintained a spirit of collaboration that allowed truth to emerge. Researchers often shared findings through journals and conferences, believing that knowledge was a light that could not be owned by any single person. The discovery of new elements and the understanding of atomic structure began to reshape the fundamental concepts of matter and energy in ways that still resonate today. Scientists worked with limited equipment, relying on precision and patience to detect phenomena that were invisible to the naked eye. The city itself was a living laboratory, a place where the past and the future met in the present moment of discovery. The bonds formed with colleagues, patrons, and students created a lasting network that supported my work until the end. These relationships were a source of strength, a community that shared the vision and the passion for discovery. The story of those years remains. The laboratory is quiet now, a place where time seems to have settled into the dust on the wooden shelves. I remember the year 1897 clearly, the moment I decided to turn my attention from the small joys of motherhood to the strange rays emitted by uranium. My daughter Irene had just been born, her tiny hands clutching at the air. And I felt a deep need to understand the invisible forces that shape the world around us. The choice was not made in a flash of inspiration, but grew slowly like moss on a stone, steady and inevitable. I walked into the modest laboratory with Pierre, the air thick with the scent of damp wood and chemical salts. We were not famous then, just two tired researchers with a curious mind and a shared dream of finding something new. The shed we used was barely more than a glorified greenhouse, its glass roof cracked in places and letting in the cold Paris rain. Inside, the floor was uneven, covered in a layer of fine, dark dust that never seemed to wash away no matter how much we swept. We worked there day after day, stirring massive iron pots filled with crushed ore that smelled of earth and sulfur. The heat from the fires was intense, baking our skin and making our clothes stick to our backs with sweat. Poor death. Yet there was a strange comfort in this physical labor, a rhythm to the stirring and the boiling that calmed the mind. We were searching for something that could not be seen, something that could be felt only by the way it changed the world around it. The glow of the uranium was faint at first, a ghostly blue light that appeared in the darkness of the night. It was not a fire that burned hot, but a cold light that seemed to come from within the matter itself. We called it radioactivity, a word we invented to describe this mysterious emission of energy. It felt like holding a secret that the universe had been keeping for billions of years. The work was grueling, requiring us to process tons of pitchblende or to extract a mere fraction of a gram of the new element. We crushed the rock by hand, using heavy hammers that made our arms ache with a dull, persistent pain. The dust filled our lungs and settled in the creases of our skin, a constant reminder of the material we were trying to tame. Every night, we would return to the small shed to check on the samples, watching the photographic plates darken under the influence of the rays. It was a silent conversation between the elements and the glass, a dialogue written in silver and shadow. The wooden tables and glassware held the secrets of the universe in their fragile forms. Dust motes danced slowly in the shafts of golden illumination that touched the workbench. Glass beakers sat in orderly rows, their surfaces cool to the touch and filled with liquids that shimmered with an inner light. The smell of acid and wet stone was constant. A sharp scent that clung to the back of the throat. Outside the window, the rain fell softly on the roof. A steady rhythm that matched the slow stirring of the pots inside. The air was still, heavy with the weight of the work we were doing. Yet there was a sense of peace in the effort. We knew that we were close, that the answer was hidden just beneath the surface of the rock we had crushed. The discovery of polonium and radium came as a surprise. A revelation that changed everything we thought we knew about matter. We named the first element after my homeland, a small tribute to the country that had been erased from the maps. The second name, radium, spoke of the rays that emanated from it. A name that felt both simple and profound. It was in 1898 that we first isolated these new substances, separating them from the rest of the ore with a patience that bordered on the obsessive. The process was slow and tedious, requiring hundreds of steps of dissolution and precipitation. Each step brought us closer to the pure form of the element, a substance that glowed with a beauty that was almost painful to behold. We worked through the winter and into the spring, our hands stained with the chemicals we used, our clothes worn thin from the constant friction. The shed became a sanctuary, a place where the outside world ceased to exist, and only the work mattered. In 1902, after years of relentless effort, I finally isolated a pure sample of radium chloride. It was a tiny amount, no more than 1/10 of a gram. But it was enough to define the atomic mass of the new element with remarkable precision. The scale in the corner of the room was old and delicate, its needle trembling slightly as I placed the small vial upon it. The number that appeared was a confirmation of what we had suspected all along. A proof that radium was a distinct element with its own unique properties. It was a moment of profound quiet, a silence that felt heavier than any noise. The scientific community had been skeptical, questioning the existence of such a substance, until the evidence became undeniable. Critics had argued that the rays were a trick of the light, or a flaw in the measurements. But the pure chloride spoke for itself. It glowed in the dark, a steady blue light that did not fade with time. This achievement marked a turning point in the history of science. A moment when the periodic table was rewritten to include a new member. The Nobel Prize in Physics came in 1903, shared with Pierre and Henry Becquerel, for our joint work on this phenomenon. The ceremony was held in December. The air outside cold and crisp, while the hall inside was warm and filled with the murmur of voices. I was the first woman to receive such an honor, a fact that felt both significant and strange in the context of my life. It was not about the glory or the recognition, but about the validation of the work we had done in that small shed. The award was a testament to the power of persistence. The idea that truth could be found even in the most difficult circumstances. The years that followed were filled with both triumph and tragedy. Pierre died in 1906, struck by a horse-drawn cart on a rainy street, leaving me alone to continue the work we had started together. The grief was a heavy weight, but I found that the laboratory was a place where I could find solace. I assumed his teaching position at the Sorbonne, becoming the first female professor at the institution. The lecture halls were filled with students who looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and doubt, unsure of what to make of a woman in their midst. I spoke of radioactivity and the nature of the atom, my voice steady despite the pain that still lingered in my heart. The work continued, driven by a need to understand the world that Pierre and I had loved so much. In 1911, I was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, the second major milestone of my career. This prize recognized my solo efforts in the discovery of radium and polonium and the isolation of the pure element. It was a rare honor, making me the first person in history to win 2 Nobel Prizes in different scientific fields. The award in chemistry specifically honored my contributions to the advancement of chemical science through the study of radioactivity. It was a moment of deep satisfaction, a recognition that the years of hard work had not been in vain. The scientific community had finally embraced the theories that we had proposed, and my name became synonymous with the field of radioactivity. The Radium Institute was established in Paris to further research into this new field, becoming a leading center for nuclear physics and chemistry. It was a place where a new generation of key, scientists could learn from the methods we had developed, where the mysteries of the atom could be explored with fresh eyes. The legacy of these discoveries extended far beyond the laboratory, reaching into hospitals and homes across the world. The use of radium in medical treatments, particularly for cancer, brought hope to countless patients who had previously been without options. The radiation therapy that saved lives was a direct result of the work we had done in that small shed. I refused to patent the discoveries, believing that science belonged to all of humanity and should be used freely for the benefit of society. This decision that we never profited from the work, but it ensured that the knowledge could be shared without restriction. The impact of this choice was profound, allowing researchers everywhere to build upon our findings without the barrier of patents. My daughter Irene would later win a Nobel Prize in chemistry for her own work on artificial radioactivity, continuing the family tradition of scientific inquiry. The story of our work is one of patience, precision, and an unshakable belief in the truth. It is a story of two people who looked into the darkness and saw a light that no one else had noticed. The quiet hum of the laboratory in Paris served as the backdrop for these significant discoveries. A place where the impossible became real. The wooden tables and glassware held the secrets of the universe. No waiting for someone to listen to their whispers. The history of science is marked by our names and the elements we discovered, a testament to the power of human intellect and curiosity. One surprising fact remains etched in my memory from those early days. The specific gravity of radium is 5.5, meaning it is 5.5 times heavier than water, a density that made even the smallest sample feel surprisingly heavy in the hand. This physical property was one of the first clues that we were dealing with something entirely new. A substance that defied the expectations of the time. The weight of the element was a constant reminder of its power, a physical manifestation of the energy it contained. It was a detail that seemed small at the time, but it became a cornerstone of our understanding of the element's nature. The work continued long after the awards and the recognition, driven by a simple desire to know more. The notebooks filled with calculations and Observations are still kept in special archives, their pages yellowed with age, but the ink still legible. These documents. The world outside the laboratory. Windows had turned sharp and cold. A place where whispers cut deeper than the wind. I remember the way the newspapers spread their lies across the tables, ink smearing like black rain on white paper. They spoke of a woman who had broken the sacred rules of marriage, of a heart that had wandered when it should have stayed still. The scandal was a heavy coat I wore every day, stiff with mud and the stares of strangers. People turned their heads when I entered a room, their eyes narrowing with a judgment that felt like physical weight. It was a time when the air itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next blow to fall. I walked through the streets of Paris with my head high, yet my heart felt small and hidden away. The pain was not a sharp stab, but a dull, constant ache that settled deep in the bones. I learned to move through the noise as if moving through deep water, slow and deliberate. The silence of the laboratory became my only true sanctuary, a place where the only voices were those of the elements. I mixed the pitch blend in the shed, the air thick with dust that tasted of iron and old stone. My hands were rough and stained, carrying the marks of a battle fought in solitude. The world wanted me to crumble under the weight of their words, to retreat into the shadows where I could no longer be seen. But I had seen the glow of radium, and that light was stronger than any darkness they could conjure. The scandal was a storm that passed over the house, leaving the foundation shaken but intact. I watched the rain wash the streets clean, the water running dark and swift toward the river. The memory of that time remains clear, a chapter written in ink that has not yet faded. A single fact sits quietly in the history books. The first woman to win a Nobel Prize was not allowed to accept it in person because of the public outcry over her relationship with Paul Langevin. The Academy feared the scandal would tarnish the reputation of the institution. So they asked Pierre's brother to accept the award on her behalf while she stayed away. This small detail of exclusion was a quiet wound that never fully closed. A reminder that the world was not ready for a woman who dared to be both brilliant and human. The days stretched long and thin, filled with the rhythm of stirring, the great cauldron, and the slow, steady heat of the fire. I learned to breathe through the pain, to let the criticism flow over me like water over a stone. The stone does not argue with the water, it simply remains, shaped by the flow, but never broken. My spirit found a strange calm in the face of the storm, a quiet center that nothing could disturb. The laboratory was a place of order, where every measurement had a purpose, and every result was a step toward the truth. Outside, the world was chaotic, filled with noise and judgment, and the endless chatter of those who feared what they did not understand. I found comfort in the simple tasks, the weight of the ladle, the smell of the acid, the sound of the boiling liquid. These were the things I could control, the things that made sense in a world that often did not. The scandal faded slowly, like a bruise that heals over time, leaving only a faint mark on the skin. People began to speak of my work again, of the new elements I had found, of the light that came from the dark. The same voices that had condemned me now praised the discovery. No, the praise felt hollow, without the person I had been. I accepted the change with a quiet grace, knowing that the truth would always outlast the lie. The light of radium did not care for the opinions of men. It glowed with its own steady, silent fire. This glow was a companion in the long nights, a friend who never spoke, but always understood. I sat by the window and watched the stars, knowing that they were made of the same stuff as the dust on my hands. The universe was vast and indifferent, and that indifference was a great comfort. It meant that my struggles were small in the grand scheme of things, a brief flicker in the endless dark. The scandal was just a moment, a ripple in the stream that would soon smooth out. I continued to work, to mix, to measure, to write, to discover. The work was the only thing that mattered, the only thing that was real. The rest was just noise. A temporary disturbance that would pass with the seasons. The room where I spent my final days was small and quiet, filled with the soft light of a summer afternoon. Summer afternoon. The walls were pale and worn, holding the memory of 1,000 hours of thought and labor. A wooden table stood near the window, its surface scarred by the tools of my trade. On it sat a glass of water, clear and still. reflecting the light that poured in from the garden. A notebook lay open, the pages filled with my handwriting, the blue ink sharp and precise against the white paper. The air smelled of old books and the faint, metallic scent of the samples kept in the drawer. A woolen blanket was folded neatly at the foot of the chair, ready for the chill that always came with the evening. The silence was deep and heavy, a blanket of peace that covered the room. Outside, the rain fell softly on the leaves, a gentle rhythm that matched the beating of my own heart. The trees swayed in the breeze, their green leaves shimmering with the moisture of the storm. This quiet space held the weight of a life lived fully, a life of discovery and sacrifice. The light filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows that moved slowly across the floor. It was a place of rest, a place where the mind could finally lay down its burden. The world outside continued its cycle, the sun rising and setting, the seasons turning. But here time seemed to stand still. The peace of this room was a gift, a final comfort after a long and difficult journey. The rain continued to fall, washing the world clean, preparing it for the next chapter. The silence was not empty. It was full of the echoes of a life well lived, of the work that would outlast the body. The light faded slowly, turning the room into a soft gray, and then into darkness. The last thing I saw was the faint glow of the radium in the drawer. A small, steady fire that would never go out. The body grows tired, but the light remains, burning in the quiet dark. The final breath was a release, a letting go of the heavy coat of the world. The spirit rose up, light and free, to just thou kill me, to join the stars that had watched over me for so long. The room remained, holding the memory of the woman who had changed the world with her quiet, steady work. The silence was perfect, a complete and total peace that had been earned through a lifetime of struggle and discovery. The light of radium continues to glow in the dark, a testament to the power of the human spirit to find truth in the midst of chaos. The legacy of that light remains, a beacon for those who come after, guiding them through the dark. The story ends here, but the light goes on, burning in the quiet dark of the universe. The war arrived not with a sudden explosion, but as a slow, heavy fog that settled over the continent. I watched the world change from my window in Paris, where the sky turned a bruised purple before the first shells ever fell. The streets emptied, and the silence that followed was far more terrifying than the noise of battle. I felt the ground tremble under my feet, a vibration that reminded me of the atoms I had spent my life studying. The invisible became visible in the form of smoke and dust that choked the air. My laboratory, once a sanctuary of pure thought, became a place of urgent necessity. I saw the soldiers coming in, their faces gray with exhaustion and fear. They carried wounds that no surgeon could explain, deep burns that refused to heal. The smell of antiseptic mixed with the copper scent of blood, a familiar odor that now carried a new weight. I knew that the tools of my trade could be used to mend these broken bodies. The X-rays, which had been a curiosity in the hospitals before the conflict, became a lifeline. I remembered the cold metal of the first portable machine I built, a device I called the Little Curies. It was small, boxy, and painted a dull gray to blend into the chaos of the field hospitals. I drove it myself, navigating the muddy roads that led to the front lines. The tires sank deep into the earth, and the engine sputtered in the cold air. Inside the cab, the smell of gasoline and old leather filled my lungs. I felt the rough wool of my coat against my skin, a constant reminder of the winter that had settled over Europe. The soldiers looked at me with a mixture of awe and confusion. They saw a woman in a long skirt, driving a machine that could see through flesh and bone. It was a strange sight, a woman in a man's world of war. I stopped at every makeshift hospital, setting up the equipment on wooden crates or overturned tables. The light from the X-ray tube was a harsh, white beam that cut through the darkness of the tents. I held the plates in place, my hands steady, despite the trembling of the ground nearby. The flashes of light revealed the hidden shards of metal and the shattered bones that lay beneath the skin. The surgeons worked quickly, guided by my images, their movements precise and efficient. I saw the relief in their eyes when they found the bullet or the shrapnel. It was a small victory in a sea of destruction, but it mattered. The pain in the soldiers' eyes softened as the threat was removed. I worked for months without rest, moving from one camp to another, driven by a need to help. The cold seeped into my bones, and my fingers were often numb from the frost. I wrapped my hands in scarves, but the chill remained. The nights were long and filled with the distant rumble of artillery. I would sit by the fire, watching the flames dance, thinking of the elements that burned within the earth. The war had changed everything, yet the fundamental nature of the universe remained the same. The atoms did not care about borders or flags. They simply existed, waiting to be understood. I continued my work, driven by a quiet determination that refused to fade. The little Curies became a symbol of hope, a small light in the darkness of the war. I saw the faces of the men I helped, the gratitude that they could not always speak. It was enough. I knew that my work had saved lives, that the knowledge I had gained had been put to use for the good of humanity. The war ended, but the scars remained, both on the land and in the people. I returned to my laboratory, the silence of the room a welcome change from the chaos of the front. The machines were still there, covered in dust, waiting for the next chapter.